2016, a defense exhibition hall in New Delhi, India, Defexpo, one of Asia's largest arms fairs. Hundreds of companies from dozens of countries line the floor with glossy scale models and polished prototypes. Somewhere among them, a small private company from Kiev, Ukraine, is showing something that does not belong. It is a six-wheeled armoured vehicle, low and angular, riding on a chassis that any Cold War veteran would recognise instantly. The hull shape, the wheel spacing, the overall silhouette, all of it traces back to one of the most mass-produced armoured personnel carriers the Soviet Union ever built, the BTR-60, a vehicle designed in 1959, a vehicle that most of the world's armies discarded decades ago. But this version is different. The engine has been ripped from the rear and relocated to the front. The troop compartment has been rebuilt with a rear exit ramp. The thin steel skin has been replaced with high-hardness armour and a mine-resistant floor, and sitting on top, in a fully traversable turret, is a 122mm howitzer, a weapon that belongs on a self-propelled gun, not on a six-wheeled armoured car. It looks like a contradiction bolted together in a garage. It looks like someone took a 60-year-old troop carrier and tried to turn it into an artillery piece on wheels. Every defense analyst walking past this stand has seen this kind of thing before. Small companies from developing countries showing ambitious concepts that never survive contact with a real military budget or a real battlefield. But the company behind this vehicle is not a startup chasing a fantasy. It is a firm that has already built more than 4,000 vehicles, including over 1,000 ambulances for Ukraine's health ministry. It has already survived one war, the conflict in eastern Ukraine that began in 2014. And within a few years, it will be building armoured vehicles in the middle of the largest land war in Europe since 1945. The company is called NVO Praktika. The vehicle is called the Otaman 6x6, and it represents something far more important than a single prototype. It represents what happens when a country at war decides it can no longer afford to wait for someone else to build what it needs. To understand why the Otaman exists, you need to understand the vehicle it was built from, and the country that inherited thousands of them. The BTR-60 was the Soviet Union's first 8x8 amphibious armoured personnel carrier. It entered service on the 13th of December, 1959, after a design competition won by the VA Dedkov Bureau at the Gorky automobile plant. Production ran from 1960 to 1976. Western intelligence estimates suggest that roughly 25,000 were built. The vehicle was designed to carry a crew of 2 plus up to 14 infantrymen, and it became the standard transport of the Soviet naval infantry for decades. On paper, the BTR-60 was revolutionary for its era. 8 driven wheels gave it genuine cross-country mobility. A boat-shaped hull made it fully amphibious. A turret mounting a 14.5mm KPVT heavy machine gun and a coaxial 7.62mm PKT gave it reasonable defensive firepower, but underneath the concept lay serious compromises. The armour was between 5 and 10mm thick, proof only against small arms fire and light shell fragments. The vehicle had zero mine protection, and its power plant was genuinely bizarre. 2 separate 90-horsepower gasoline engines, each driving 4 wheels on one side, producing a combined 180 horsepower through a mechanical arrangement so complex that field maintenance was a constant headache. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, Ukraine inherited enormous stocks of Soviet military hardware. Among them were approximately 1,000 BTR-60s, most of them mothballed, many of them corroding in open storage. For years, nobody knew what to do with them. They were too old to modernize cheaply, too numerous to scrap entirely, and too fragile to send into any modern combat environment without getting soldiers killed. Then came 2014. Russia annexed Crimea. War erupted in the Donbass, and Ukraine suddenly needed every armoured vehicle it could get its hands on. The problem was not just numbers. The problem was that Ukraine's state defence industry, the sprawling conglomerate formerly known as Ukroboronprom, was slow, bureaucratic, and in some cases actively compromised by decades of institutional neglect. Factories that should have been producing armoured vehicles were tangled in Soviet-era procurement systems that could take years to approve a single design. Into that gap stepped a private company. NVO Praktika had been founded in 1993 by Dr. Ole Vysotsky, who also chairs the League of Defence Enterprises of Ukraine. The company had spent its first 2 decades building specialised civilian vehicles, ambulances, police transports, cash-in-transit vans, armoured VIP cars, and even fireproof doors and bank safes. Between 2004 and 2007, it contributed to the Chernobyl nuclear reconstruction, alongside Germany's Nukem program. It was an engineering company, not a weapons manufacturer. 2014 changed that. Praktika pivoted fully to military production.